A report just broke from Joel Sherman that a longtime New York Met could be on the move. We're going to get to that next on Metcast. What's going on, Met fans? Welcome back to another offseason episode of Metcast. As always, I am Rain. If you're enjoying this content, make sure you like, subscribe, turn those notifications on so you're always up to date in regard to the latest New York Mets news. And I encourage you guys, I had Brandon Tierney of WFA on recently. I will link that video to the end of this video. What a great conversation. Mets, Yankees, offseasons, directions, expectations. We get into all of it, but let's get into it. Article just came through, or a report from Joel Sherman, that Brandon Nimmo, yes, Brandon Nimmo with the full no trade clause, 5 years and $100 million left on his contract, could be on the move, and the Mets could be shopping him. And that also comes in the midst of another report from Dave Hayes who on the Athletic, who covers the Twins, saying that Byron Buxton, yes, the Byron Buxton that the New York Mets checked in on last trade deadline, and you had it as of August 5th, a report from the New York Post saying that the Mets offered a big package to acquire Buxton, who now has 3 years at only $15 million a year, which is less than what Jeff McNeil's $15.75 is due to make next year, is now contemplating waiving his no trade clause to get on a contender. And I want to preface this. You have two things. Nimmo, obviously, we all know about the foot injury. Yes, the offensive production is still there, so the value is still there. But the issue is, if the New York Mets are to retain Pete Alonso, and we have reports as early as today from John Heyman saying that the Mets and Alonso are already in conversations about a potential extension or re-sign, whatever you want to call it, you can't have both Alonso and Nimmo on this team long term. It's very simple. They're both projected to be DHs over the next 5 years. I mean, Nimmo probably as early as next year will start getting more and more DH, and then beyond that, he's probably a DH. So the Mets will probably have to eat some of that contract. Could they say, hey, we're going to eat $20 million, so a team gets him on 5 years, $80 million, so well below, that $20 million average, $16 million or so for a really good DH in Nimmo, but you have to convince Nimmo to waive his no-trade clause, which I'm not totally sold that he would do. He's got a family. He loves New York. New York drafted him in the first round, came up to the farm system. We all know he wanted to be here when he hit free agency not too long ago. But to have Pete be here, that signals to me the Mets' plans are clear as simple and clear. They want Pete Alonso back, but only if they're able to move on from Brandon Nimmo, because they know Pete Alonso probably after next year will probably be almost a full-time DH. And if you're going to pay him 5 years, I'm fine with that, but it better be in the DH role. You have a top prospect in Ryan Clifford coming through the system. And then I saw a report suggest that potentially Mark Vientos and McNeil, of all people, Jeff McNeil of all people, could be getting time over at first base. You just can't make this up. But I will say this. Byron Buxton is a guy who David Stearns loves. They tried to get him at the deadline. Buxton, I presume, did not want to move his whole family or go live in an apartment mid-season. I understand that. But now he's going to his age 32 season. So you have 32, 33, 34 at only $15 million a season. Could be huge for the New York Mets to pounce on that. If he's willing to waive that, maybe you make it some type of package deal. A player that we discussed multiple times on this platform, Joe Ryan, an ace-type pitcher under control over the next couple of years at UFA in 2028, could be part of a bigger package. Maybe Nimmo goes back to the Twins, and they also get other pieces as well. Probably going to have to include at least one of the pitching prospects, either Tung or Sproat. I'm kind of on the fence who I'd want to go. A lot of people say, well, Sproat, look what he's doing, yada, yada. I could also argue this. Sproat's going to be 26 this year. Tung's way younger than him, so maybe the upside is there with Tung. Noel McLean, obviously, he's off limits, but you're trying to pair McLean with another top flight pitcher, with Manaea coming back and Peterson coming back and Senga's probably coming back. I know there's a lot of reports out there that the Mets may be looking to move on from a Kodai Senga, but for me, I'm not selling a guy when their value is completely in the gutter like a Kodai Senga. And pretty much the press asked David Stearns during his press conference, could you see Kodai Senga going to the bullpen sometime this year? And he pretty much shut that down. He said, until further notice, he is a guy that's going to be in the starting rotation. You also have other guys down there from minor league depth. Also, if you trade for a guy like Joe Ryan, now it's easier to say, let's bring in a Framber Valdez. We saw that report just a couple days ago suggesting the Mets may not just bring in one front-end pitcher, but two. And I highly doubt both of them would come from the free agency markets. Those are two guys to look out for. And then we have a report that just dropped within the last few minutes. The San Diego Padres are looking to either have investors go into their current ownership or potentially sell. And usually when teams decide to sell, they want to get off big contracts. And yes, I'm suggesting the player you're all thinking about, Fernando Tatis Jr., who's on a major contract. Yes, he got busted for PEDs, but still an 800 OPS player in his mid-20s, under contract, long-term. If I'm the New York Mets, that's the guy that I would absolutely pivot to. Stick him in left field. You have Juan Soto in right. Dare I say, get Juan Soto, convince him to go to left. I don't know if you could do that. Could you add both of those guys? Could you add, we talked about it yesterday with BT. They got to have a mega offseason. When I hear mega offseason, Michael King, Joe Ryan, Byron Buxton, Tatis, Nimmo's out the door. You try to find a suitor for a Jeff McNeil. And if you get all those players, you could potentially move a Carson Bench. Now, I love Bench. I think he's going to be a great player at the next level, but he might be a couple years away. I know we saw that report from Stern saying that he may be fighting in spring training. I'm not totally buying that. I think he'll be at camp. We'll see where it goes with that. But if you're able to lock up a Tatis and Juan Soto and a Byron Buxton, there's no room for Carson Bench. You can include him potentially in a deal for a Tatis Jr. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Would you consider a trade like that? Let's not forget, he is a MVP type player. We want to compete with the likes of the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Brewers. That's what it takes to do it. And then on top of that, we also saw the report Edwin Diaz could potentially get done as early as today or over the next couple of days. We had a couple reports out there. We reported over on Metcast that there could be big movement in regard to the reliever market. And yes, Edwin Diaz, some guys signing as potentially as early as this weekend or as of today. And if that happens, we'll come back live with you guys for the latest and breaking news. But that's all I got for you guys today. Make sure you like, subscribe. Let me know down in the comments. Love mixing it up with you guys. Find out, who do you guys want to prioritize this offseason? Would you be interested in trading a lot for Buxton and Ryan? What would you give up for Tatis? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, let's go Mets. God bless. Take care.